In a month full of highly anticipated releases, comes a game out of nowhere that's oozing with style. Affogato is an RPG featuring reverse tower defense mechanics, infiltrate demon mind labyrinths, make multiple different types of coffee, and make some new friends along the way. It's a fairly unique mix of genres. I know it's kind of a cop-out to say things are like Persona because Persona is also like a mishmash of genres, but it's kind of like Persona meets Valhalla. I think for the most part, the game does fit that bill quite well, at least on a lower scale. After all, this is B-Fun Studios' first outing, and it's a pretty darn impressive one at that too, featuring full voice acting in 2 different languages. Both languages are quite good actually. Here's a little comparison.
お前の名前はアフォガート。魔女をしている。这是记忆碎片，被恶魔隐藏、删减、篡改的记忆。
You take the role of Affogato, a witch in an unfamiliar town. Alongside the demon you've made a pact with, Mephisto, you decide to open a new coffee shop, aptly named Witchery. Looks comfy, doesn't it? It's from this point that the game opens up substantially. You're given a limited amount of time per day to do activities, and for the most part, days do go by really quickly. Some events and places are only active during certain days or certain times. Most days are available to you, but at times, certain time periods and certain days are taken up by special story events, sometimes with no real indicators, so you'll need to plan around that. You could use this time to progress through the main storyline. Certain important quest lines, such as the main story, have deadlines, so it is important to keep those in mind. There's also the little matter of paying your rent on time as well. You can also explore the world as well and partake in side activities, many of which can raise your stats, allowing you to progress in character-specific storylines. More on that later. And of course, you can spend the mornings opening up your coffee shop. Let's talk about the coffee shop itself. Should you decide to open the coffee shop for the day, you'll be making coffee for the customers. Within certain parts of the story, when you meet certain NPCs, you'll have the opportunity to hand make coffee yourself. There are multiple different drink types, and multiple ways to season a drink. Making the proper drink for them at the proper time will increase their affection towards you, allowing you to progress further in the character's storyline. If you give them the right drink at the right time, you'll even unlock special dialogue called hidden stories. Now I know what you're thinking, this kinda reminds me of a game. Valhalla cyberpunk bartending action, and I think the developers know it as well. And while there are far more drinks and far more ingredients to play around with, drink making in this game isn't as involved as, say, Valhalla. You always know what drinks to make. There's also explicit gameplay benefits to progressing a character's storyline. I guess this is the part where we talk about the reverse tower defense gameplay. You collect witch cards throughout the game. Some you have to unlock through character stories, and others you have to buy. Each of the cards are named after the 21 major Arcana cards. You can also level up your Arcana cards, increasing their health and attack power. Before each battle, you select a loadout of cards, with different battles having different card limits. The moment-to-moment gameplay has you summoning your Arcana cards. Though your characters automatically attack, you can choose to prioritize targets. You can also manipulate certain parts of the arena, such as specific tiles that change the direction your team goes in, and positioning is very important. These small changes have a major effect on how your team performs, given that you're not directly controlling your team. In addition to Arcana cards, you can find temporary use cards on the field as well. Obviously, as you get further into the game, the combat gets more complex because you have more cards and there's more mechanics introduced in these maps. Specific Arcana cards can also give you extra cards to play on top of your units. Should any of your units fall in combat, they'll simply go back to your hand, though their penta cost increases and they'll be on cooldown. You can also have your units retreat as well, still being on cooldown and still having an increased cost, but you'll get a partial penta refund as well. You also have access to real-time pausing, allowing you to collect your thoughts and think about your next move. Unlike most other deck builders, there aren't that many cards to collect, and so while it puts a greater emphasis on the cards that do exist in the game, it does make deck building a lot less stressful. The gameplay itself is actually pretty refreshing, and though the combat may seem easy because you're not actively doing any of the fighting, there's still a lot to consider inside and outside of combat, and at times micromanaging all of these elements can be a different type of stressful, though with the right upgrades and quick thinking, you should be able to overcome any obstacle. It's a sort of mishmash of genres, between it being an RPG, reverse tower defense or RTS, combined with visual novels and a Persona-style time management system, there's a lot of different aspects to the game, and in many respects, they do gel together, and what's there does feed into one another. Battles reward you with gold, and you can find treasure chests with special gifts that you can give to NPCs. Increasing your bond and becoming closer with the NPCs can give you new cards. Going out into the world can increase your social stats, allowing you to progress further in the character storyline. Ultimately, it culminates into a game that's more than the sum of its parts, and it gives the game that distinct flavor and flair. But it's not to say the game is perfect. There are some issues that I have with the game. Let's start with the combat. Some of the maps are ginormous, and more often than not, these maps have hidden treasure chests within. And in my own personal opinion, I think the characters move just a bit too slow. And personally, I think it makes backtracking a bit painful. Your team has to go all the way back around, and that can take some time. You can speed up the combat 2 times if so desired. Sometimes it just takes too long for your units to traverse. It's a minor gripe, but I wish they would introduce a 3-time speed. But honestly, it's just a minor gripe. Sometimes during the coffee making segments, the pointer isn't really all that precise. This segment was definitely meant to be played with a mouse and keyboard, or a touchscreen if you prefer. You can still do everything in the coffee screen with just a controller, but at times it's a little cumbersome. And in my opinion, I think the coffee making segments are a bit underused. You only really hand make coffee for special NPCs. The whole coffee making segment doesn't really tie into opening up your shop in the morning either. It plays a cutscene and you get paid a random amount of money. But what if, instead of playing a cutscene, you had to make random coffee orders? And if you made the right drink, you'd get paid more. And you'd get paid more if you made it faster. And your total pay being based on how satisfied your customers are, I think it would have made for a more engaging experience. Integrating the coffee system and opening up the shop. And ultimately, the town doesn't really have a lot of activities. Yeah, there are multiple different stores and such you can go into, but they're more or less just watching cutscenes play out, and you get stats. There isn't even any interesting dialogue in these places, but I am willing to look past all of these shortcomings because the game is just so damn charming. I love the art style and the music, and despite the fact that I'm not like a coffee aficionado, I like the coffee in this game too. Maybe someone that's better at making coffee than me can actually try making some of these recipes. So is it a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination? No, but this game leaves a strong impression on me, which is especially odd for a month that has Baldur's Gate 3, Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, and Armored Core 6 all in the same month. You've definitely done something right. I'd love to see what these developers have in store next. What a vastly improved Affogato 2 would look like. Fun fact, a real-life Affogato is an Italian ice cream-based dessert, a scoop of ice cream or gelato topped with an espresso shot. If you like this video, be sure to press the thumbs up button and spread the good gospel of high-tech lowlife. And if you want to see more high-tech lowlife, be sure to subscribe and press the bell icon for notifications. And for you enlightened individuals, be sure to join my Discord server. And if you wish to support high-tech lowlife, be sure to check out our Patreon page. Links in the description down below.